Right now that you're here. Of course. What else? Are you sure? Decisions without you. I know. Hey, did Slade tell you he's coming to my house? No.
Good morning. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of April the 18th, 2025. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Baker,
Here.
Mr. Beck, Mr. Chauncey,
Here.
Mr. Graham,
Here.
Mr. Helton, Dr. Highlander,
Dr. Highlander is en route. He is caught in traffic.
Dr. Mackey,
Here.
Mr. Sharp,
Here.
Mr. Shipley, Mr. Smith, Mr. Chairman Eversole.
Here. Invocation and pledge will be conducted by Commissioner Helton, so if all would please rise.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our invocation today will be handled by Pastor Scotty McCurdy from the Church of the Highlands.
Thank you. May we pray? Our Heavenly Father, we bow in your presence here this morning. Lord, so grateful for all of your goodness, your blessings. Thank you for the freedoms, the opportunities that we enjoy here in the United States of America and Hamilton County. God, we thank you for these commissioners who meet today and would ask that your blessing be upon their lives. God, I pray that you would enrich their lives. Help them to walk with you. Help them to seek you as a priority, to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. I pray that you'd enlarge their coast, God, that you'd increase their opportunities and capabilities and abilities. And Lord, I pray that you would enable them, empower them with your wisdom, with your grace, with your help. And I pray that you'd encircle them, God, that you protect them from evil and the evil one. I pray that you would bless their families. Bless our community, God. Help them as they deliberate today. Give them your wisdom, direction. We pray that you would prosper this county for your glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please face and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Thank you, Commissioner Helton. Have no presentations today. We'll move forward with minutes. We'd have minutes that need to be entered and recorded for the recess meeting on March the 26th, 2025. Agenda session, March the 26th, 2025, and the regular meeting for April the 2nd, 2025. What would be the will of the commission?
Move for approval.
Commissioner Smith made the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Baker. Second that motion. The lights will, standings will roll call. Roll call.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Beck, Mr. Chauncey,
Yes.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Helton, Dr. Highlander, Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. I also have two reports that need to be entered into the record, Mr. Clark.
Will do, Mr. Chairman.
With that, we'll move into resolutions. The first resolution is 425-15. So Madam Clerk, you'll read the caption.
Resolution 425-15, a resolution to approve and accept applications for notary public positions, the bonds and oaths of notaries previously elected, and the oath of deputy sheriff.
Commissioner Graham made the motion. Commissioner Smith seconded the motion. See no lights, no one standing. Roll call.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Chauncey,
Yes.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Helton,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp, Mr. Shipley, Mr. Smith, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, 425-15 passes. 425-16.
Resolution 425-16, a resolution confirming the appointment of County Commissioner Joe Graham and County Auditor Chris McCullough, and the reappointments of Chief Financial Officer Lee Browner, County Attorney Reuben Taylor, and County Clerk William Bill Knowles as members of the Hamilton County Ethics Committee for a term of 1 year beginning April 16, 2025, and ending April 15, 2026.
Commissioner Mackey made the motion. Commissioner Shipley second that motion. See no lights, no one standing for comment. Roll call.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Chauncey,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Hilton, Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharp, Commissioner Shipley, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, should I have recused myself since I was in that resolution?
You're fine. 4216 passes. With that, we will move forward to the very last resolution, the last committee as a whole, which is 425-37.
Resolution 425-37, a resolution to authorize payment of $46,500 to Kristen Cruz, to attorneys Derek Nelson, Warren and Griffin, PC, for full and final settlement of any and all claims arising from a motor vehicle accident involving a Hamilton County Parks and Recreation vehicle on or about the 25th day of October 2022.
Short head on top.
Commissioner Graham made the motion. Commissioner Smith seconded the motion. So no lights for conversation, no one standing. That will roll call.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Chauncey,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Commissioner Hilton,
Yes.
Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharp,
Yes.
Commissioner Shipley, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. 425-37 passes. We'll move into building and economics. 425-17. Commissioner Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Clerk, could you read that into the record?
Resolution 425-17, a resolution authorizing the county mayor to initiate the physical transition and move of the Hamilton County Recovery Court from their current offices at the MLK Building on Oak Street to the East Annex Building at 8395 Hickory Valley Road.
Mr. Chair, do we have any lights?
Need to make a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Hilton made the motion. Commissioner Smith made second that motion. Have one light. Commissioner Sharp.
Yes. Turn my mic off. Yeah, thank you, Chairman. We had an excellent presentation on this last week. I certainly appreciate the efforts to put this program in new facilities that will meet their needs. The one concern I think that became evident was transportation for participants, many of which who really are at rock bottom in their lives, particularly in the early stages of these programs. And with this location being over a mile from the nearest bus stop, there's a lot of concern for, I have personally, a lot of concern for individuals participating in this program and their ability to consistently get to the programming on time so that they can complete it successfully. I believe that it was mentioned that we're currently borrowing a van from Parks and Rec, an old van that they have. Yet it's still a real challenge because they don't have, as I understand it, personnel really to drive the van, pick people up, and continue doing what they're doing. I just want to ask, long story short here, are we planning in our next budget to have resources for a van and potentially personnel to drive the van to make sure these folks can get to their programming?
Is that question to the Chief Financial Officer?
Mr. Roddy, speak to that.
Yes, Commissioner. Yes, the answer is yes. We will have multiple options relative to, we don't currently deploy the van now because the location they're in, it's not necessary to design the options that we discussed last week. going into this program in a new location, we are designing the multiple options that we can make available as we assess the transportation needs of the individuals that are in the program at that time after we have moved successfully. We still have a little while left to go on the building itself relative to carpet, paint, so forth, infrastructure and whatnot. But all of that is the discussion of not only the building itself, the move, the transition, as well as transportation needs for the individuals in the program as we move all the operations to this new location.
That's great. So we will have, we'll have those resources in the budget to facilitate the needs they have
We will have transportation resources in the budget, yes, sir.
for this program specifically,
For which one, sir?
for the recovery court.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm referring is we will have resources in the budget relative to supplying transportation needs for our clients.
Excellent. Thank you. That's all I needed. Chairman, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roddy.
Chief.
We want to make sure we have the resources in there to make this a success. Thank you. Anything else? Okay.
See no more lights, no one standing, roll call.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Chauncey,
Yes.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Hilton,
Yes.
Dr. Highlander,
Yes.
Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharp,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman Eversole.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, could you read, resolution passes. Madam Clerk, could you read 425-18?
Resolution 425-18, a resolution to approve the firm of Tinker Mott LLC for design of the Gateway Career Technical Education Building renovation.
Motion to approve. Do we have any lights?
Commissioner Hilton made the motion. Commissioner Graham seconded the motion. See no lights, no one standing. So we'll roll call.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Chauncey,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Commissioner Hilton,
Yes.
Dr. Highlander,
Yes.
Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley, Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. So 4218 passes. Move to finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Clerk, please read 425-19.
Resolution 425-19, a resolution to revise the funding policy for the Hamilton County Employees Pension Plan, the Hamilton County Commissioners Pension Plan, and the Hamilton County Teachers Pension Plan.
Thank you, ma'am. Move approval.
Mr. Smith made the motion. Commissioner Baker seconded the motion. Commissioner Sharp.
Yeah, Chairman, just for the benefit of anyone who may be listening, as we were told last week, this has no material impact on any of the plan. It's simply just adjusting a couple of words. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
No more lights, no one standing. Roll call.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Chauncey,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Hilton,
Yes.
Dr. Highlander,
Yes.
Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharp,
Yes.
Commissioner Shipley, Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman Eversole.
Yes. 4219 passes.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, 425-20, please.
Resolution 425-20, a resolution accepting the quotation from One Diversified LLC from the Omnia Partners Purchasing Cooperative for audio-visual equipment upgrades amounting to $67,938.30, and authorizing the county mayor to sign any contracts necessary to implement this resolution.
Thank you, ma'am. Move approval.
Commissioner Smith made the motion. Commissioner Graham seconded the motion. See no lights, no one standing. Roll call.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Chauncey,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Hilton,
Yes.
Dr. Highlander,
Yes.
Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharp,
Yes.
Commissioner Shipley, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman Eversole.
Yes. 425-20 passes.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, without objection, let's bundle 425-21 and 22, please.
Resolution 425-21, a resolution to relinquish Hamilton County's interest in a 2008 Ford Explorer with 100,260 miles and a 2008 second Ford Explorer with 163,337 miles, co-titled with Cell Creek Volunteer Fire Department. Resolution 425-22, a resolution to waive the procurement rules and authorize the county mayor to transfer 2 surplus vehicles to Hamilton County Stars Rescue.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Move approval.
Second.
Commissioner Smith made the motion. Commissioner Shipley seconded the motion. See no lights, no one standing. Roll call.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Chauncey,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Hilton,
Yes.
Dr. Highlander,
Yes.
Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sharp,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley. Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Sherman.
Yes, 425-21 and 425-22 pass.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, please read 425-23.
Resolution 425-23, a resolution accepting the proposal from Zoll Data Systems, Inc. for an initial 3-year term to provide software and data solution services amounting to a total of $202,120 for the Emergency Medical Services Department ambulance billing services, and authorizing the county mayor to sign any contracts necessary to implement this resolution.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Chair, prior to taking a motion or hearing a motion on this one, I do want to remind this body that when we heard this last week in agenda, that there was discussion about a deferral while we were waiting on ensuring that we had the proper contracts in place and trying to weigh that versus moving forward with it today. So with that said, I don't know if anybody on this body has a strong feeling on a deferral or moving to approve, but I will not be making a motion at this time. I'd like to leave it to the body to make that determination.
I'll make a motion to defer.
You have a date, sir? I think last week we discussed May 28th.
That was the date from Baker Donaldson. Is that accurate?
I do not recall if that was the recommended date
Um,
from, if that's who recommended it or not.
I don't know if chairman knows, or if we may ask our attorney if that is
Yes, sir,
an
Attorney.
appropriate
Was May-
date.
May the 28th, was that the correct date?
I believe it was, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I believe that was, they said that they could have their report ready for us. So I would suggest you put it on that date, and then if we find out that we're in error, we'll ask you to put it on to another date.
So my motion is to defer to May 28th, pending the, yes, Baker Donaldson report.
So is that's that'd be on recess for that. So that would be, on the recess or regular agenda? Because that's a regular agenda. Or no, it's not regular, it's an
It's
agenda
agenda.
day.
So recess.
Agenda. You on an agenda or recess?
Frankly, I don't care either way.
So we can vote on it.
We just put it in the recess. We'll
Yeah,
be
we'll
fine.
just do recess.
I mean, provided that it's not overly complicated, I think that should be
Recess.
fine. Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Sharp? Mr. Shipley?
Got a question by continuing to defer this. I might ask somebody over there in the wet well, what are we doing here? Are we creating a problem to continue to defer, or do we need this passed? Or Chief Roddy, can you answer that?
That may be a Mr. Browner question.
I think in general, we can continue to operate the way we have been operating. This is just a opportunity for us to use technology and to much more efficiently and effectively bill and collect for those charges. We are getting by as we're doing it today. Again, the contract, right now, they have agreed to provide that service to us at this price. I don't know that that price will be guaranteed or the additional services guaranteed, but I guess that's all I've got to add.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Graham?
Mr. Chairman, that was really my question. I mean, by deferring this, I guess it's to Lee, by deferring this is, even if the Baker Donaldson report comes back and says we need to make changes, we need to do something different, does that change this contract in any way?
I personally don't see a reason to defer, but that again is possibly contrary to the opinion of the county attorney, but I don't believe this would really have any effect on what Baker Donaldson is doing. But
Can I ask the same question of the attorney?
Commissioner, you all have undertaken to engage the services of Baker Donaldson to analyze the internal workings of the county. which comprises of your county documentations being handed out to other persons. It's not recommended that before you hand it out to any other additional persons, we find out how our present system is working. That's why the recommendation from my office as well as Baker Donaldson is, let's let Baker Donaldson do what they were contracted to do, and then proceed if you all choose to do so. But right now, we're in the process of, we know of certain incidences that have already happened because of our documentation. Let's protect that documentation until we find out how our system is operating.
But when Baker Donaldson was in this room asking, and I asked the question of them, does this affect what they're doing in any way? He said, no. He said he's looking to see where we are, you know, whether we're in good shape, whether we're in bad shape, whether we need to make changes, whether we're, you know, whatever. But it has nothing to do with this contract right here. I mean, I just don't like kicking this can down the road or continue kicking it down the road.
This contract allows you to circulate more information out to other entities. And that's the issue is, which Baker Donaldson is looking into, is how we maintain our documentation as well as how we circulate it out.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Sharp?
I think everyone is on the same page here now. I'll just let it go.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
Commissioner Mackey?
Chair, last week, if there was a need to delay until the report came in, and it hasn't come in, it seems that need is still there. So why not wait until the report comes?
Okay, see no more lights. Question for the attorney real quick. Attorney, did Baker Donaldson actually suggest that we wait on this?
Mr. Chairman, I conferred with Baker Donaldson and told him what our office recommendation was, and he agreed with it.
Okay. All right. So he did agree with.
When I say, speaking specifically of Joe Connor,
Okay.
who was here.
All right. Mayor, do you have a comment?
Yes, Chair, I do.
Okay.
Staring at the back of Christie's head. I can't see you. Thank you. Hey, how are you? Good morning. Just for full transparency, some of the communication that was expressed in conversations with Joe Connor with Baker Donaldson was they really were hesitant to interfere with day-to-day operations of the county because of the time it takes to do the study. And also because of the date you pick, I want to make sure everybody understands our first conversation towards the interviews and working towards the report is not until Monday, the 21st. So we haven't started the process yet. We've just got into the contract signing. So I wanted the commissioners to understand that date of, I think you said May 25th, sir. It's a good target date, but you may have to push it again if that is in fact the date that's settled upon. I just wanted everybody to understand where we are in the process. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, see no more lights. So right now we're voting on the deferral to May the 28th onto the recess meeting. Is that correct? Okay. Commissioner Sharp made the motion. Commissioner Mackey seconded that motion. So we'll do a roll call.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Chauncey,
Yes?
Mr. Graham,
No.
Mr. Helton,
Yes.
Dr. Highlander,
Yes.
Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
No.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. So the deferral passes. So we'll have it on the recessed agenda on May the 28th. Is that correct? Okay. So are we done with this 425-33?
Moving on, Madam Clerk, without objection, let's bundle 425-24, -25, and -26, please.
Resolution 425-24, a resolution approving the purchase of annual software maintenance for Inform RMS software amounting to $163,117.94 from Central Square Technologies LLC beginning June 1st, 2025 through May 31st, 2026 for the Sheriff's Office and authorizing the county mayor to sign any contracts necessary to implement this resolution. Resolution 425-25, a resolution approving the service agreement for the existing fire systems at the Hamilton County Jail and Detention Center amounting to $60,000 from Johnson Controls from Sourcewell Purchasing Cooperative for the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office and authorizing the county mayor to sign any contracts necessary to implement this resolution. Resolution 425-26, a resolution approving the purchase of 5 vehicles amounting to $259,473 from Lonnie Cobb Ford LLC and Wilson County Motor Company from the state contract SWC 209 for the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office and authorizing the county mayor to sign any contracts necessary to implement this resolution.
Thank you, ma'am. Move approval.
Second.
Mr. Smith made the motion. Mr. Sharp, second the motion. See no lights on. Sheriff, anything you want to add? All right. We're ready for roll call.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Chauncey,
Yes.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Hilton, Dr. Highlander,
Yes.
Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Resolutions 425-24, 425-25, and 425-26 pass.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, without objection, let's bundle 425-27, 28, and 29, please.
Resolution 425-27, a resolution authorizing the county mayor on behalf of Hamilton County, Tennessee, the Health Services Division operating as the Hamilton County Health Department, to sign an amendment to the contract with the Tennessee Department of Human Services to increase the amount of the contract not to exceed $92,840 and extend the contract by 1 year to conduct child care agency immunization audits in Hamilton County for a time period of October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2026. Resolution 425-28, a resolution authorizing the county mayor to sign a reoccurring contract between the Tennessee Department of Health and Hamilton County, Tennessee, the Health Services Division operating as the Hamilton County Health Department, to accept the annual contract funds from October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2026, and an amount not to exceed $444,300 for fiscal year 26 through fiscal year 27 to provide parents as teacher model services in accordance with the evidence-based home visiting program with the Department of Health's Maternal, Infant, and Early Childhood Home Visiting Program. Resolution 425-29, a resolution authorizing the county mayor to sign a continuation contract between the Tennessee Department of Health and Hamilton County Health Department for fiscal year July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, in an amount not to exceed $1,171,400 to provide care coordination in accordance with the Department of Health's Community Health Access and Navigation in Tennessee model and guidelines.
Thank you, ma'am. Move approval.
Second. Mr. Smith made the motion. Commissioner Baker, second that motion. See no lights. No one standing for comment. Roll call.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Chauncey,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Commissioner Hilton,
Yes.
Dr. Highlander,
Yes.
Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Resolutions 425-27, 425-28, 425-29, all pass.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, without objection, let's bundle 425-30, -31, and -32, please.
Resolution 425-30, a resolution to accept the proposal from McNabb Center to provide clinical services and support for the medication-assisted treatment pilot and reentry program in an amount not to exceed $175,000 from Hamilton County Economic and Community Development and the Sheriff's Office, and authorizing the county mayor to sign any contracts necessary to implement this resolution. Resolution 425-31, a resolution authorizing the county mayor to apply for a Tennessee Youth Employment Program grant from the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development in the amount of $400,000 requiring no match. Resolution 425-32, a resolution authorizing the county mayor to accept an award in the amount of $100,000 from the Community Foundation of Greater Chattanooga, requiring no match to fund a Hamilton County administrative position for Hamilton County Civil Courts, and to amend the general sessions fiscal year 2025 budgeted and revenues and expenditures accordingly.
Thank you, ma'am. Move approval.
Commissioner Smith made the motion. Commissioner Highlander seconded that motion. See no lights, no one standing for comment. Roll call.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Chauncey,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham,
Yes.
Commissioner Hilton,
Yes.
Dr. Highlander.
Yes.
Dr. Mackey.
Yes.
Commissioner Sharp,
Yes.
Mr. Shipley, Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, 42530, 42531, and 42532 all pass. We'll move into zoning. Commissioner Chauncey, I was told 42533 and 34 has been pulled. Is that correct?
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
No. They actually hadn't been pulled. We spoke last week. I was just kidding. I know how much this means to you guys. We spoke last week and we're going to defer it to June 11th and June 18th. But June 11th, agenda session and our June 18th.
Okay.
Voting.
I was confused because I was told that they were pulled or deferred and they were still on the agenda last night, so I didn't know.
No. We're just going to defer those, so they should coincide with the same meetings that we vote on Plant Hamilton.
Okay.
And Attorney Taylor, do we need to vote on that, or have I made that clear to the public?
No, sir, but this announcement is sufficient.
Okay.
The announcement is sufficient.
All right. So we will move on to 425-35B, please. Ms. Clerk?
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, point of order here real
Go ahead.
quick.
Go ahead,
Mr. Attorney, we always vote to defer items. Why would we not vote since this item is?
It was an announcement. It was an announcement from the committee. I understood that they were recommending to put it off.
So
Before
announcement
they
from
were ready.
last week,
Yes,
but
sir.
because they're still on the agenda, the only reason I pull that out is if anybody was here looking for these items to be voted on, because they are on our posted agenda to the public. Typically, we take action and we would just move for deferral to make it official.
You could do that, but if it's announced in this open meeting and people are here for it, they're still here in the same situation. So it can be announced without objection, or it can be voted on whichever way you want, but it's the problem that you really don't need to vote on it in order to defer it to the June meeting dates that he's talked about. Whichever way you all want to
Typically, it
do it.
wasn't read in the record, so I guess that's the reason I brought it up. Since it wasn't read in the record, we
Yeah.
can.
Right.
I'll be willing to do whatever my attorney advises me to do.
Whatever you want to do, I think is sufficient. The announcement has gone out that it's not going to be decided on today until June. So unless there's somebody here that has objection or the commission wants to vote on it, either way,
You want to have any objection, please
or the commission.
move forward.
Move forward. No objections.
All right. Madam Clerk, please read 425-35B, please.
Resolution 425-35B, a resolution to rezone from A1 Agricultural District and R2A Rural Residential District to R1 Single Family Residential District with conditions for the property located at 8704 Walnut Road and an unaddressed property in the 8700 block of Walnut Road.
I move to approve with conditions.
Commissioner Chauncey made the motion. Commissioner Graham seconded that motion. Commissioner Smith?
Thanks, sir. Just for the record, Mr. Chair, can we hear what those conditions are that were moved for approval? You said with conditions. I just want to be clear.
Yeah,
what those are.
you caught me off guard. I don't,
Sorry.
Mr. Schultz, do you want to read those conditions?
Sure, I can, there's two conditions, actually three conditions. Maximum density of 43 residential lots, no individual driveway curb cuts on Walnut Road, and number three, a 20-foot wide landscape buffer along the Walnut Road frontage as shown on the site plan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz.
Okay, Commissioner Highlander?
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Schultz, with those conditions, did they change any of the opinions of the opposition? Do you know?
I don't, the applicant's here, I don't think it did. There was some opposition there, but they were more concerned about, I think, fencing and lighting. And we talked about this last week, adding two conditions,
Right.
but we felt there was no need to add those additional
Right.
conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mackey?
Thank you, Chair. How many units can be put on this property?
43, that's what we conditioned to.
And it has a capacity to have how many?
Let's see. It's 7 units per acre. You can see the acreage here real quick. 80-something, 83.
And the capacity is based on sewer,
It's
septic?
sewer and lot size. Now, that doesn't mean, that's just gross. Doesn't mean they can get that many lots.
But,
But the developer's only showing 43 on his site plan.
but we're going to allow about half of what he can do.
That's what's shown on the site plan. Time you put in the road and detention ponds, that number is going to shrink significantly.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry for the follow-up. Commissioner Mackey, thank you, sir, very much for clarifying that. One of the big issues we're dealing with throughout the different areas in the county, as all of you know, with, all the discussion on Plan Hamilton does have to do with an increased density in more of our areas that are like this, especially when you're changing A1. So just to be clear, Graham Bryan, you said that based on the acreage, not necessarily the topography, but based on the acreage, it would be how many, again, 80?
I got 91. It's 13.75 acres.
So 91.
91 in gross. Doesn't mean that's what
In
you're going
gross,
to get.
and realistically, when you put roads and everything in, you're still going to end up with at least in the 60s or 70s
This is
probably,
about
right?
20-something lots different.
Okay,
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
all right.
Mr. Schultz, this Mr. Price he's applicant on this. And
Yes.
we talked about this. He wasn't here last week. We were thumbs up on the extra condition he was wanting to put on there.
We felt there was no need to add those because lighting will be handled through the code. It was very specific on fencing. If somebody wanted to put in a different type of fence, they'd have to go back through and amend this condition to change that fencing.
Okay, so those.
Because it was very specific wording, what type of
Okay.
fence it had to be.
I just want to make sure since he wasn't here that he was aware.
Yeah, I think that was our consensus, that no need for those conditions.
All right, we got any more lights?
So no lights, no one else standing, so roll call.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Chauncey,
Yes.
Mr. Graham.
Yes.
Mr. Hilton,
Yes.
Dr. Highlander,
Yes.
Dr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp,
Yes.
Commissioner Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman Eversol.
Yes. 425-35B is in Baker passes.
Madam Clerk, finally, 425-36, please.
Resolution 425-36, a resolution to rezone from R5 Single Wide Manufactured Home District to R2 Urban Residential District for the property located at 1554 Dallas Lake Road.
Move to approve.
Mr. Chauncey made the motion, Commissioner Highlander second the motion. See no lights, no one standing, roll call.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Beck, Commissioner Chauncey,
Yes.
Mr. Graham.
Yes.
Mr. Hilton,
Yes.
Dr. Highlander.
Yes.
Dr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
Mr. Shipley. Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, 425-36 passes. We'll move, that's all the resolutions, so we'll move into announcements. Commissioner Shipley.
No announcement.
Commissioner Baker.
I've got something for Lee and Chief, just something to think about. So the sheriff buys cars and we lease cars, and CARTA repairs vehicles. Something, food for thought, just something for us to look at. Maybe there's a better way we can do our business. Thanks.
Commissioner Smith.
No announcements, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mackey.
Chair, I have no announcements.
Commissioner Sharp.
Yes, Chairman, I just want to announce that progress is still being made on the Health Department, the Health Committee, with regard to the needs for a new building. And I just thought Commissioner Baker might speak to that briefly.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Chief Roddy and Shannon Berger and Dr. Greg Heath of UTC. A lot of data, and Sonia, Sonia's sitting there. A lot of data to collect. We've probably made, 3 good cuts at it and still have a couple more. But just working on evaluating a lot of things with the health department. 1, mission; 2, revenue and expense; 3, obviously a new building or a new location. So lots of stuff to look at. So that's what we're looking at. We'll get you a full report as soon as we've got something to chew on that makes sense. Chief, anything you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Hilton.
No announcements.
Commissioner Chauncey.
No announcements.
Commissioner Highlander.
Just briefly, I'd like to welcome my cohort, my vice chair for the Agriculture Committee and former school board member Kathy Lennon here, and also Mr. Smith with representing city government. We appreciate his being here. Oh, and Mr. Connor, of course. He had his head down. I didn't see who it was. Thank you.
We thought we'd skip him twice in the same week.
Commissioner Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to wish everybody a happy Easter. It is Holy Week, so remember the season in my phone. Thank you, sir.
Attorney Taylor. Mayor.
I'd just like to thank those of you who came up to Soddy Daisy with Gino and I and the crew. Appreciated you guys taking the time. It's been a process that forces me to collect some thoughts, and I'm always glad I did it and glad that it's over, but appreciate y'all coming up.
Did a good job, Mayor. I'd like to ask next time, send a helicopter for me and Commissioner Highlander. Couple of things from the chair. Number one, no commission meeting next week. This is a 5-Wednesday month. So we always, on the fourth Wednesday, elect not to have commission meetings. So no meeting next week. Our next meeting will be on the 30th. So 2 weeks from today. And then I want to talk about something just briefly. I'm getting a lot of emails. I know this board is getting a lot of emails that deal with the school board wanting money. And it's citizens throughout the community. It's principals, teachers, nurses, everybody's sending money. And I just want to be perfectly frank about the school situation right now. Our school situation is the responsibility of this board is to approve an overall budget. We do not get in and tell the school where to spend their money. I will tell you this, though, that 2 years ago, I was in a meeting with administration, and I cautioned the administration that they were using money that was COVID money coming in for permanent, not for permanent positions, but for ongoing positions. And I cautioned them that if they continue to do that, they would put themselves in the situation they're in now. And I know other members of this board had the same conversations in the same meeting with the school board. So my challenge is, you know, teachers, nurses, your budget is based off of what the school board decides, and they will send to us, and we will either give it thumbs up or thumbs down as a whole. We will not tell the school board where to spend the money. That by state law is the school board's responsibility with the superintendent. So I would ask that the school board that you guys dig in deep with Dr. Robertson. My caution is being in the business background is you never, ever look at cutting funding or reducing funding where the rubber meets the road. And in this case, it's the students. That's the very last place that you ever look at during tough times as far as looking at reducing funding. So where it touches the student. So I've always said that and I always will, but I would caution and tell the parents, those that have an interest in the school system, is to reach out to your school board member, reach out to your superintendent. They're the ones that make those decisions. They're the ones that decides where the money goes and what it will be used for. But I will tell you, I am not in favor of a tax hike, and I think that you'll find out that I think the board is pretty much with that. The mayor's announced that he's not supportive of that. I think the school system needs to look at the money that they've got. They know the numbers where they're going to come in and what they need this year based off of current trends. But to me, and I hate to say it, but shame on you for using money and putting it in positions that were ongoing when you should have used it in positions that were short-term. And that's what the COVID money should have been used for. So now we're in a position to where tough calls and tough decisions are being made. So that's a decision that the school board, along with the superintendent, needs to make and come to this board with what you recommend is needed to operate the school system. But make sure that we are taking care of our students. because that's the future. That's what is going to take care of us tomorrow and in the future is how we educate our kids, okay? All right, you can see a couple of lights that started some conversation. So Commissioner Graham?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir, you did, and I agree with you 100%. That was very well said. The one thing that you hit on, though, that I've been hearing a lot about on top of what you've already said is cuts. They're having to cut their budget. A cut in a budget is when you actually cut the budget. Money goes away. They're not, the school board, let me clearly say that, the school board is not cutting their budget. They're not receiving less funds. If anything, they're going to receive more funds than they did last year. There's a maintenance of effort law, as we all know, that we cannot by law give them any less than we gave them last year. So they're not cutting their budget. What they're doing is they're telling the general public that they're threatening to cut, but they're reallocating the funds that they get. They may be moving funds around, but they are not cutting their budget. They're, if anything, like I said, they're going to get more. So I hope the general public, when they are talking to their school board member and the superintendent, I hope they realize when they're talking to them, the funds are there for what they did last year, and the funds will be there exactly the same or more this year. So to cut their budget, you lose or you go down in revenue. They're not going down in revenue. Thank you.
Commissioner Mackey.
Thank you, thank you, Chair. Chair, how much COVID money were you alluding to?
I don't have the exact dollar total of COVID money. Lee, do you remember the total? It was tens of millions of dollars. That was it's about 150 million. Going to the mic here, Commissioner Hollander.
The way I'm willing to stand corrected, but I did jot it down. 20 million went to the charter schools, and about 30 million, roughly ballpark. Lee, you please help me if I'm wrong. About 30 million went to complete Tyner Middle High, and about 100 million went to services. And they did a lot of good things with it. They did a lot of good things, but a lot of it were personnel expenditures in that 100 million. Now, I may be wrong about that, but that's from memory. That's, Lee, am I ballpark right?
I don't have that information in front of me, but yes, in general, I think your numbers are pretty close.
And I'm not saying they did bad things with it. They did a lot of good things, but some of those things are, the money's gone away.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Hilton?
No.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Mackey. Back to you.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I just want to be clear, Chair. Who was it that you told not to use one-time money for permanent positions?
When we had the meeting in the mayor's conference room, see the mayor looks like stepped out. There he is. It was, I guess, was it last year or year before last that we cautioned the superintendent that these monies were going away. I personally said, these monies are going away. You can't bank on this money being there in the future. So it was a conversation that this body had with the superintendent.
And you said not to use one-time money to fund permanent positions.
I said that one-time money was going away, and do not put it in things that you needed for the future. You needed to recur. So,
okay. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Hilton?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Browner, what are the growth dollars looking like for the school this year? Coming from us and the state, just to sort of piggyback Mr. Graham's statement.
I don't know if any of the school board members are available and willing to discuss that. I have not been working with the school's budget. I basically have my hands full working with the county side of it, so I really don't have that information.
Yeah, and I know a lot of those dollars are just passed through, especially from the state, but I was just curious. I think it weighs on this conversation, and I'm sure we're going to find out shortly. Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Highlander?
Commissioner Hilton pretty much said what I was about to ask too. But I have read, now I don't know if this is wrong or not, but 1.5% to 3% growth If we do get hypothetically 3% growth, how much would that be in millions of dollars? Do you have any ballpark figure, Mr. Browner?
Well, again, that depends on the growth. Are we talking sales tax? Are we talking just property tax? Property tax would probably, probably I would guess be between $2 to $5 million or so in growth. In the property tax piece, sales taxes, again, are a very significant piece of their budget. I don't know what they're projecting growth there, but, so I really don't have a good number for estimating how much growth they would have from that local source.
And of course, 50% of the sales tax by law, the city and the county goes to the schools. Am I correct?
That is correct. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Mayor?
I was going to make one clarification because I was actually studying this morning. I think the governor's budget, which has made its way through, I believe to be voted on today, calls for a 3.1% increase across the board in TISA, which is the state's funding formula. So just for some perspective in terms of what should be expected. Now, the school system's going to make the case that they've got inflationary pressures across the board. And so, to your point, Commissioner Graham, there is more revenue. What Lee Browner can speak to is some of our disappointments over the last couple of years about the performance of property tax collections, and I think sales tax collections more or less flatlined over the last year. But I think, Commissioner Helton, it is helpful to separate out, just for us all to understand what the major contributors are to the school system's budget. Local funding in the form of sales tax, local funding in the form of property tax, and then state funding, which is actually more, it's a bit of mystery to that. I spent a lot of time last year when we proposed a one-time supplement to the school system's budget, trying to understand what we could expect. But this 3.1% number is where the state settled, and that's pretty well in line with what Governor Lee has suggested over the last several years.
Commissioner Mackey?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. You made the comment, those positions that they created, were they teaching positions or what?
You're asking me if they put that money into teaching positions?
Yes.
They put that money into several different positions.
Like what?
Special ed, the money was put into. Commissioner Highlander, you had some details that you were covering in the meeting the other day, where some of that money was going to that was kind of overhead, or not overhead, but was staffing.
My school board member, Mr. Ben, might be able to help more than I would, but I know that a lot went into some really good positions, some social emotional positions, some behavior specialists, so a lot of really good support people. But yet, on the other hand, those positions are not renewable on financial means. And so they did a lot of good things. They taught summer school to kids that were behind, and they did quite a few good things. But the problem with that was that the money, the sources for funding are not recurring. And they did a lot with it, but they can't, I don't see that we can sustain that as it is unless we come up with some other financial source. Most of it was support positions. I think I got a nod from Mr. Connor that,
Come on up, Mr. Connor.
Want him to speak? Yeah.
Come on up.
So pleased as the commission, I would love to. Ben Connor, 1105 Hanover Street, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Where do you want me to start? There was a lot of different questions. I will happily.
The main
do
question
what I
is
can.
the COVID money that came in went towards staffing in certain positions. What positions did they?
So there were a multitude across the board. A lot of it had to do with getting the teachers up to the state mandated raises. We spoke this morning that we did get there a year early. but that was something that was necessary because we also were in a position where we had to raise their health care. So we essentially gave them a raise that we then took immediately away from them. Other positions, as Dr. Highlander mentioned, were supports for the new third grade retention law. We are obligated to offer different coaching and tutoring lessons, not just during the summer, but actually throughout the entirety of the year. If a student is chosen to be retained, there is the possibility of them asking for tutoring throughout the course of the year as one method to still go on to fourth grade. That was something that they are trying to add at the Nashville level to us to give more funding, but at current we don't. So we were required to support those. Other things, as you guys know, the funding also went to building different things. We were going to do the Rivermont Gym, for one thing, was supposed to be one of those that ended up being used at Red Bank for their locker rooms. I wish I brought, there's a lot of stuff. I brought this year's budget and not last year's, or I'd be able to line item each one of them. But what I will promise you is that I can get that information and send it to the commissioners that has a line item by line item of what we use the money for. I will also, it's very important to say that in our meetings, when it was talked about these funds, it was brought up when they were one-time funds, when they were COVID money, if you will, and that we had plans to either roll that into a job that we could utilize throughout in the regular budget, or noting that it was something that we, when we hired that person, because we actually created a couple of different job titles so that it was a position that wasn't something that was going to be recurring. We knew this is one time. If we see that this is an asset to our children, we'll try to find a way to put it in the budget, but we recognized that this was a one-time position.
Commissioner Mackey?
Mr. Connor, if you send us that itemized list, can you put big captions and say buildings, personnel, support staff?
I love that. Let me make a note.
Commissioner Baker?
Yeah, hey, Lee. So I was looking at some numbers I was given. Said total for the school system, total local tax revenue looks like it has gone up from 270 million to 276 million, which is about 31 million over the last 3 years. That be correct? That sound right?
I don't have that in front of me, but if it's the numbers I gave you, then yes, it is
Yeah,
correct.
so it looks like about just on total local tax revenue, 6 million, and that's 31 million in 3 years. So pretty sizable.
In our meetings, we've been talking about working at the assumption that we're going to get about $8 million less in property tax funding. That's where it's coming in. I did hear you say maintenance of effort. That is a law. At current, there is no penalty for a commission to not fund the schools. So yes, it is a great aspect of it, but it's not currently enforceable.
Okay.
All right. I've got to just follow up with that. I mean, we're not saying less. We're saying you're getting at least 6 million more.
6 million. I believe I heard 3%, which 3% would be
That's state.
closer
I
to
believe that was state.
15.
Where was
Okay.
that TISA? Yeah.
And TISA funding is supposed to be increased, but at current right now, TISA funding is $7,075. Conservative estimates think that it takes about $10,000 to educate a child. That's from toilet paper to teachers, all the way in between.
And I'd just say this, Ben, I mean, having served 12 years where you are,
Yes, sir.
you want to take care of your own house within yourselves.
Yes, sir.
You don't want these guys meddling with it, because when we do, it's not the way it should work.
Not
But
asking
we
for
start
meddling.
getting calls, emails. Hey, I get it. I expect it. I never told people to do that when I was on the school board. I'm sure there are people saying that. I don't appreciate it. It's the way it is. But you just want to take care of your own business. Because if we get involved, there's a bunch of financial people up here and we'll say, well, and we won't know. I mean, you know inherently. So that's, we don't want to do your business. And I hope we have a nice, healthy conversation on Monday.
I'm looking for support, not
There you go.
conflict.
There you go. That's
Absolutely.
exactly right.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I do. And I recognize obviously that, as we all do running business, that inflation is nuts right now. Hammers cost a lot more than they did last year. So even though it's the same dollar amount, doesn't go as far. So you're right. Got to fight for my house.
Thank you, Commissioner Graham.
Just for clarification, and I'll get this from Lee for you right here, Mr. Connor. Have we ever not met the maintenance of effort rule?
No, we have not.
So we follow the law here, correct?
That is correct. And we will continue to meet maintenance of effort.
Whether there's a penalty or not?
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Correct. Thank you.
Commissioner Highlander?
Thank you. Mr. Connor alluded to, that we're having a meeting, a joint meeting with the commission and the school board, and I am looking forward to that. And thank you, Chairman, for providing a meal for us. So we will have that. So I'm looking forward to meeting at Harrison, the old Harrison Elementary, which will be at the Harrison Community Center that Matt Foles has set up for us. And I'm looking forward to meeting with you at 5:30 on Monday.
Yeah, and Mayor, we need a helicopter for that meeting too, please.
Oh, no, 58's fine. There's no problem with traffic on 58. I'm being sarcastic.
Mr. Connor, I just want to end with this comment.
Yes, sir.
The school system is going to get more money this year from Hamilton County operated schools. What I need you guys to do is work with you superintendent to make sure that we're properly channeling those dollars so that we're efficiently educating our students.
Yes, sir.
Okay? No fluff. Okay? When you got to educate, your job is to make sure students are executed. You're getting more money this year than last year. So when we talk about cuts, there's no cuts. We're not cutting your dollars. You're getting more money than last year. You're just not getting that COVID money that the federal government used to give. So that's what's gone.
Understood. Where the rubber meets the road. I heard your comments.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, we'll move forward. We'll move to the public side. Anybody from the general public has anything they want to bring up, anything other than zoning, you'll have 3 minutes. And it begins with your name and address.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Josh Branham, Governmental Affairs Director, Greater Chattanooga Realtors, 2963 Amdacoa Highway. I have the March Hamilton County housing data for you. I'll pass these around in a second, but in my normal time that I usually spend going over these, I wanted to talk about a friend and a realtor who passed away, Mr. Ron Tucker. I want to honor his efforts here. Ron Tucker was a lifelong Chattanoogan, born on May 1st, 1946. Ron Tucker graduated from Chattanooga Central High School and attended MTSU and the University of Chattanooga. He proudly served in the U.S. Navy aboard the USS San Marcos, later completing service in the Naval Reserve in 1972. Ron never met a stranger. A natural people person and born salesman, he spent decades in sales and over 35 years in the Chattanooga real estate market, where his dedication and heart earned him numerous honors, including the 2017 George Kangles Community Citizenship Award from Greater Chattanooga Realtors, the 2019 Greater Chattanooga Realtors Realtor of the Year, 2019 Tennessee Realtors President Award, and most recently, 2022 Chair of Greater Chattanooga Realtors Governmental Affairs Committee. I'll also add that Ron and his wife Kathy have served as Tennessee political coordinators for Senator Todd Gardenhire, and his service is well appreciated. He's survived by his wife Kathy and numerous grandchildren and daughters. And Ron was a great friend and a wonderful realtor, and he will be missed by all of us, and his family is in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you for your time today.
Sir? Okay, next it'll begin with you announce your name and address. You get 3 minutes.
Kathy Lennon, 401 Chrisman Street, Chattanooga, 37415. Good morning, Chairman Eversole and members of the Hamilton County Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am here today as a concerned citizen and an advocate for the future of our children, our community, and ultimately our collective future. Education is the cornerstone of every vibrant community. It shapes minds, builds character, and prepares our youth to face the world with courage and creativity. Yet today, I must draw your attention to a concerning reality. Our schools in Hamilton County rank at the bottom nationally, and the recent state voucher bill threatens to divert critical funds away from our public education system. These challenges are compounded by another alarming piece of legislation that prohibits undocumented students from attending public schools. This law not only undermines our commitment to equal opportunity, but also jeopardizes our funding from the state, putting our already struggling schools at further risk. We must ask ourselves, what kind of community are we building if we exclude certain children from the opportunity to learn and thrive? If we do not invest in education today, we are essentially investing in a less educated workforce, increased poverty, and a diminished quality of life for all of us. It is essential to recognize that strong public schools are a magnet for families. People choose to move to communities with a reputation for quality education, which means that our real estate market will be affected. If we fail to strengthen our schools, we risk seeing property values decline, which will impact our tax base and ultimately reduce the funds available for vital community services. The reality is clear. Hamilton County will not grow unless we invest in our students and teachers. The Hamilton County School Board is facing significant challenges in areas that directly impact our students: exceptional education staff, reduced transportation to magnet schools, and slashes to arts programs that nurture creativity and innovation. This is unacceptable. Every child deserves the chance to reach their full potential regardless of their background or circumstances. I'm asking Mayor Wamp and all of you to rethink priorities of our county. The projects on the table should reflect our commitment to our youth and their in education. And I'm at 3 seconds, so I will end, but thank you for your time. I'm asking you all to help us as we move forward with our school board and their budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the general public? Okay. With that, no other business. Will be in recess till April the 30th at 9:30 a.m.